Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ghosties. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Macy. Picture this.
Oh God.
You look up from your book you're reading and realize that you're out later than you planned. You had decided to take the mile walk from your front door to the stream that runs through your neighborhood for an afternoon of relaxation with nothing but the sounds of water running over rocks and the wind blowing through the trees. But now you see that the sun is much lower than you wanted it to be on your trek back home. You quickly gather your things, knowing the darker it gets, the louder the whispers in the wind grow. You know from stories told to you in all your time living here that nothing good comes from being outside and alone after dark. You try not to panic, but with each minute that passes as you're hiking along the trail, that panic is slowly rising up in your stomach, making its way to your throat. You're about a quarter of a mile away from your home now, and the darkness has engulfed everything. Only the light from the moon and the smattering of small street lamps illuminate your path back. You can almost see the porch light from here, and you begin to feel relieved at the sight. That is until those whispers through the trees turn into cries. You think maybe for a second someone could be hurt somewhere nearby, but something just feels off about it. The whimpering is barely audible, but you can just make out the words, my children, have you seen them? You can feel the pain in her voice, but a chill runs up your spine. You pick up the pace a little, knowing now in your gut that this isn't right. You're inches away from your door now, and as you reach to push the door open, you glance behind you. That's when you catch the glimpse of long, dark hair and a white dress. The woman is ghostly pale and is steeped in agony and ill intentions. She's coming towards you now, her cries the only sound filling your ears. You jump inside and slam the door behind you, and everything goes silent. You know exactly who that was and what would have happened if La Llorona would have caught you.
Oh God. That was cute. That was good. But oh my God. When you said, like, you get chills, I was like, I got chills. So I'm scared.
We're talking about La Llorona today, and I wanted everyone to get worked up as much as I was and am right now after doing all the research. All right, you ready to dive in then?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. What's our tea today?
Our tea today is from Republic of Tea once more, blueberry lavender. It's a pretty blue color.
It is. It's very interesting. Kind of NyQuil-esque, but I'm excited. All right,
better.
Let's go. I definitely think we added too much water.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. It's floral.
It's an herbal tea, non-caffeinated once again. And yeah, it's
good.
Like the lavender. Yeah.
It's very lavender. Like it's like lavender, blueberry. Like it's like very like whispers of blueberry, but lavender's like out there punching.
But I like it. It's good. It's very like calming, refreshing.
Yeah, and it said to like serve it over ice. I think I would like it better over ice.
It might be better iced. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we were talking for too long, so now it's just kind of like room temperature.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I give it a solid like 5 out of 10.
I drink it again. This is a good one.
Yeah, a redemption. Republic of Tea has some hits.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of these brands have some hits.
Yes.
Some
agreed.
big misses, but also some hits. So
yes.
I'm so far satisfied.
Yeah, we can't go on too many side tangents because we did talk for a very long time, and Macy's husband suggested that we actually use the first hour of our recording usually it's not an hour, it's like 30 minutes.
30 minutes usually.
30 to 40 minutes depending on how
passionate
I was just about to say how passionate, how excited we are that day about the topic that we're discussing pre-show. So we're kind of thinking about doing like a little side quest of just like our warm-up before the episode if y'all just want to hear us talk about nonsense. Anything from movies to Timothy Chalamet, our feelings on that,
regular things, work experience, our woes.
Yeah. So if you care, we might be doing that. So let us know if you actually want more of us. I don't know.
We've got it. We might as well use it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We might be doing that. So
it's fun.
Just
anyway.
a heads up. Yeah, we enjoy it.
If you're interested, let us know.
That's why our tea is so cold. We talk for like 45 minutes about, I don't even know what we just talked about.
Literally nothing.
I have no idea.
I know we talked 20 minutes about the toilet incident at your job. That's it.
I don't know if we'll include that. It wasn't my incident.
But sorry, it wasn't Natalie's.
It was a coworker's incident. I don't know if we'll include that because I have a deep fear that they'll come across this one day. Nobody that I work with or hardly anybody that I know in real life knows about this.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a person I used to work with liked our Instagram, and I was like, I woke up to that, like, I woke up this morning and that was the first notification on my phone. I was like, oh no. Like,
They're finding it.
me. It scared me because I have curated my image of who I am so much because I am shy. I'm not shy, but I'm like reserved.
Yeah.
And so
More of a private person.
yeah, when I bare my soul on this podcast and then I forget that it's going out and people that know me in real life will see it.
Dude, I know because,
hurt.
well, everyone in real life, fine, whatever. I don't care. This is me. This is me.
I was about to
Okay.
the
We're
Demi
like
knees.
in sync today. But I know if people that I used to work with, like my old job, first of all, they know this is happening because they have seen the stories because I posted on my story. I'm just like, hey, watch us.
Yeah.
One of their wives has seen it and then another one's seen it. I know they've talked about it. I know it. And I was such a just quiet and pensive person at work.
I was a mystery.
That I just didn't say anything. One time we went out for like after work drinks and stuff and I had like one margarita. So I was just like kind of like a little more loose and actually talking. And everyone literally was just staring at me and they're like,
you're
Macy.
fun.
And I was just like, hey, what are you
Yeah.
what are you gonna do, you know?
That was me.
So if they see this, they're probably like, who are you?
That was literally me. I had worked at my serving job for almost 5 years.
And no one knew you.
And I hung out, like I made a couple of friends, or like one friend really. But everybody else, it was like, we're working together. And then on these random nights every 4 to 5 months, they're like, let's all go get drunk. And I would show up to like 1 in 10 requests for me to show up. I'd show up and then everybody would be like, you talk? Ha ha! And it would just be a big event that I'm talking. So that when I think about them seeing this, I'm like, oh God, my cover's blown. Like I just stripped naked in town center, like I'm town square. That's how I feel on this podcast because it feels so much like it was just me and you and then like the couple of YouTube people that comment all the time, which shout out. But then like I saw her, like the Instagram post. I went back to bed because I was like, oh no.
This is a dream.
I can't face this right now. And I went back to sleep for another 20 minutes because I was like, no.
Well,
and
I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, I don't care. But I just have this fear that like people are like, man, these guys are some freaks. Yeah. What are we talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. This has gone off the rails.
Yeah,
We haven't even started.
Oh God. Okay, we need to go. We do need to go.
All right. So to talk about La Llorona, we first have to talk about who she was in life.
Is it a real person?
Possibly.
Oh. I thought it was
So
just
the story goes.
like a fable, if that's the right word.
A legend.
Yeah.
An urban legend. I mean, she is an urban legend.
Well,
And
yes.
just like Bloody Mary, there are theories as to who she could have been.
Okay.
There are no specifics. Like, it's not like Maria who lived in this specific,
I get it. I do actually have a quick little story. Someone that was friends with Kayla, our sister, she and her family, like she still has family in Mexico that she would go and visit. And she showed me a video on her phone that has stuck with me my entire life. I think I've told you about it.
You did. I think so.
It was a video where like her cousin sent it to her, or maybe she took it, and they were recording. It was like raining outside their house and they were recording, and you just hear this woman scream crying. You hear it over the rain, and she's just like, I'm not gonna do it, but like scream crying over the rain. And they were like, that's her. It chilled me to my bones. And it was also like in the time where it wasn't like, I think it was iPhones, but it was like the iPhone 4. So the
it's really
video
grainy
quality
and
wasn't
bad,
great, but it was like, and that makes it more eerie.
But that's a scary story.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I was
Horrifying.
trying to think because while I was doing this research, I remember someone showed me this video or told me about a video.
It was me.
Yep, that's what it was. So Maria was the most beautiful young girl living long ago in a small town in modern-day Mexico near the Rio Grande. She came from a poor family who had nearly nothing to their name, but Maria always felt destined for more. It seems she was going to get her deepest desires when a rich conquistador came riding through town one day and spotted Maria. Also, once again, Spanish. Okay?
You get it. You know what we're trying to say.
You know. If you've been here, you know. He was immediately taken aback by her beauty, and their relationship blossomed quickly. They never spent a moment apart, and he promised that she would be the one he would marry. She soon became pregnant with their first son, and they were overjoyed. They were still unmarried, but this didn't bother Maria much because she knew that they loved each other, and when they had their second son, this seemed to be solidified in Maria's mind. They lived together in a small house outside of town where she raised their children mostly by herself, as he told her that he had lots of business to tend to. All was well until one day, while walking through town with her two young boys, she spotted a carriage riding down the path. She stepped aside to let it pass and noticed that in the carriage sat the love of her life and the father to her children.
Yup.
Sitting next to him was a pretty young woman who looked as though she came from a family of great wealth.
Knew it.
The man and Maria made eye contact, but he looked ahead as if he did not know her. Maria overheard someone in the crowd talking of the two riding in the carriage and how the two richest families in the area were to be joined together by their happy marriage soon. Maria was beside herself with grief and rage. She believed him when he told her that they would be the ones with the grand wedding and happy life. Overcome with emotions, she took her children to the river and threw them in as an act of revenge toward the man she thought loved her.
Oh my God.
The boys were swept up in the current of the river, and Maria, realizing what she had done, screamed out in pain and jumped in after the boys, but it was too late. All three of them perished in the river that day. It is said that when Maria made it to the gates of heaven, she was alone, and God asked where her sons were. She answered that she did not know, and as punishment for her wicked deeds, God told her to remain on earth and only return when she found her boys. From then on, she has wandered the area of Mexico and southwestern U.S., searching for anyone resembling her beloved children. And if you are outside at night near a body of water, you can still hear her crying out, "Ay, mis hijos," and snatching up children who disobey their mothers to take them to heaven as her own children.
I was on her side at first when you said like filled with rage. I was like, yeah, kill him. Not her kids.
Not him, yeah, no.
I meant the husband. I meant like, yeah, do it all. Like, get revenge. Like,
You were a
drag that
spiteful
man.
lady.
Yes, I was like, drag that man. And then when you said she did that to the kids, I was like, well, I take it back. So I'm glad I didn't say anything.
No, we were not on her
That's
side.
Horrible. I didn't know that story. I always knew something similar. And
Yeah, well,
I didn't know that.
like every urban legend, there are
Yeah.
variations to the story. So
Yes.
this one isn't exactly it. This
I'm
one
sure.
could be it, but I mean, it's told different depending on the region you are.
Also, just as a disclaimer, we are two white women. So if we get this wrong, we are not of Mexican descent. We are not from Mexico. I've never been to Mexico. Have you been to
No, I've never been.
We've never been to Mexico. So like, if we're getting this wrong, feel free to let us know. Like if you're actually...
I looked at a
sure,
bunch of
yeah.
stuff on the internet and listened to some podcasts and stuff by people of like who are from Mexico or of
Okay.
Mexican descent.
Okay.
So, but I mean, also still tell us if you are Mexican or, you know, close to, have family, whatever.
Mhm.
Let us know the story you know.
Yes,
because
I'm interested
I'm
to know
intrigued.
the different variations.
Yeah.
But I always knew it was something similar to that. I just never knew that whole story.
Well, some say she only killed her children out of jealousy because her
Oh.
husband paid more attention to them than they did her. That's
Oh.
one variation of the story. Others say that her husband left her for someone younger and more beautiful after her beauty faded with time. And then there are variations of the story that say the children drowned after being neglected by their mother. Like she was doing laundry and not paying attention, or some say that she was like gallivanting with other men and like came back and found them
Yeah.
in the river. And there are even stories that say that the father killed them
Oof.
out of spite against Maria, and then she threw herself in afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
One particularly harrowing version of the story says that instead of throwing herself into the river after them, she sat by the river unable to eat for weeks, only crying out in agony for her children until her body became nothing but skin and bones.
Oh my God. Either way, all very, very tragic.
Awful,
Yeah.
awful origin story.
Just
But
sad.
an account of the legend told in Francis Torres' 1947 book, A Treasury of Mexican Folkways, tells a story that begins in Mexico City. La Llorona was a pretty but humble maiden named Luisa, instead of Maria, with whom a rich young man of high society fell in love. And much like the version that I told, he did not marry her, but instead furnished a love nest of sorts for her, where they were happy for many years. His friends visited and respected her, and they had 3 children together. Finally, his family prevailed upon him to marry a girl of his own class. He told Luisa he was going to marry, and she made a scene.
Mhm.
He stopped visiting her after this, unfortunately, left her and her 3 children, and she was an uninvited guest at the wedding at this big cathedral in town. She came home, maddened with grief, and sent a dagger into the tender bodies of each of her children, one after the other. Then, horror-stricken, she ran wildly through the streets, calling for her little ones, sending terror into the hearts of all who heard her. According to some of the chroniclers, Luisa was tried and garroted for her crime, and on that same day, her lover was buried after having committed suicide.
Oh my God.
So, all around, tragic.
Whatever story it is, that's awful.
There's even a version of the story told in some parts of Guatemala of a young woman who kills her children hoping to keep the man she loves, who doesn't want to bear any responsibilities of fatherhood, and he still rejects her, knowing she no longer has children, so she's unable to live with the regret, and she feels having done something so terrible. And there's a poem by Manuel Carpario titled La Llorona, published in 1849, that tells the story of the husband who caused the death of the children, setting off the events leading to the haunting of the weeping woman. I found this translation into English if you'd like to hear it.
Yes, please. That was also 1849. That's a long time ago.
It's been a long time,
Interesting.
This has been a prevailing legend for many, many years.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that far back.
Mm-hmm. Pale with terror, I heard it told when I was a child, an innocent child, that a bad man in my town once did to death his wife, Rosalia. And since then, in the shadowy night, the trembling, frightened people hear the sad whimpering of a suffering woman, whimpering such as she made in her agony. For a certain time, she ceases in her lament, but then she breaks out in prolonged weeping, and alone she traverses the streets. She fills everyone with mortal fear, and close by the river in the thick darkness, she goes weeping, wrapped in her cloak.
I just got chills. Cloak? Yeah. I don't know.
Something about a cloak floating behind her in the ether.
I think of the Harry Potter story when she's telling the story of the three brothers. That's how I'm envisioning the story that you just told.
That's a good visual. The story of La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, which is translated in English, is told all over Central America, the northern countries in South America, and the southwestern U.S., particularly amongst Spanish-speaking communities. Regardless of the story, La Llorona remains on this earth searching for her children and causing fear in any who are unlucky to encounter. She is a vengeful spirit who tends to roam near bodies of water around nighttime. She typically has long, dark hair and wears a white dress, and sometimes even a veil covering a skeleton-like face that can only be seen if you're close enough for her to snatch you. There are some haunting stories claiming that she unknowingly carries the bones of her children embedded in her back.
Her back?
Yeah, I saw some like school children or juvenile detention center children or something that would tell the story of La Llorona, who said that unknowingly, like she doesn't know that they're like embedded back there.
And because she just keeps looking forward, looking for them.
Yeah.
Oh.
She is always crying, wailing even, really, speaking Spanish and calling out to her lost children. She asks where they are and calls out to see if anyone has seen them. And one of the scariest things to me that I read is that when you hear her crying, if the sounds are loud and seem close by, then she's far away. But if her cries sound distant, she's very close.
Ooh,
Some versions of the story say that, which is terrifying to me.
Oh,
like you think you're safe, like it's just off in the distance, but really that means she's right there. So you never really know how much danger you're in around La Llorona. If she catches you, then it's said that she will drag you to the water and drown you like she did her kids. Some say if she catches a child, she will drag them to the river, ask for their forgiveness before the children befall the same fate. Some claim to have had contact with La Llorona after running away from home, like children, and she appears sitting beside them in a horse-drawn wagon, and when runaway children, obviously frightened, decide to turn around and race home, because this is terrifying, she'll turn to them and say, "I'll let you go this time, but go back to your mother and be good to her." This time. Allowing them to escape her clutches for now, as long as they obey their mothers and grandmothers. She has chased unsuspecting people down as she screams and cries, and if she doesn't catch you, just witnessing her can be a sign of misfortune to come to you and your family.
Yeah, I believe it.
Though most say she is after children, there have been some versions of the story claiming that she acts as somewhat of a siren, tempting a solitary male late at night and enacts her revenge against them, as if it was against her husband. And the legend was told mostly by adults to children, obviously, possibly as a way to keep children away from bodies of water and ditches so that they wouldn't drown while unsupervised while they're out playing.
Yeah.
Like, don't go near the water because La Llorona will get you.
That's what I've always heard, and what I always thought it was like, if it's not real, it's just like what parents told their kids to like scare them.
And that would
like
keep me away. I wouldn't even want to go to the public pool. Like, just never see a body of water again. She's even used as a deterrent for bad behavior and disobedience amongst children and their parents, and cautioning children not to wander about alone.
Yeah, and that's what I always heard. That's what I always knew. It was just like keeping the kids in line, keeping them at home.
Pretty freaky way to do that.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it's like true. I don't know. I never want to believe any of this, and I want to be like, oh, it's all just fun stories, but
every time I leave here, I'm like walking out to my car, like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. She's like, it's not real. This is all fake. It's not real. Very convincingly, too.
Oh, yeah, because as soon as you shut your door in your car, I'm like, and I run back into the house and I lock the door.
I'm like, yeah, it's not real.
It's never real.
And I also do the same. I get out of my car and like race into my door.
But the whole ride home, you're like, yeah, it's all just fun games. Hee hee.
Try to anyway. Yeah. It's more like, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
I think it's real. So where the story of La Llorona originated is a mystery, like all urban legends, really. The tales have been passed on for generations, and she's been depicted in artwork and theatrical performances for many, many years. There have even been books written about her and songs performed by a plethora of artists.
There was a movie, huh?
There have been several movies.
Did you watch it, the most recent one?
No.
I didn't either.
I want to. I wanted to, too.
I wanted to, but I don't know why I didn't.
Like, directed by James Wan?
I have no idea.
I love him.
I don't know, but I remember it came out and I was gonna watch it. I don't know why I didn't. I usually watch all the scary movies that come out. I need to watch that.
We should watch it together.
But now I'm scared.
Maybe.
No, you have to watch Hereditary first.
Okay, Hereditary, then La Llorona as a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
But regardless, she's a cultural icon of sorts in many Spanish-speaking communities and all over the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
There have been elements of the lady in white in many cultures throughout time we've discussed.
It's
including
always
those in Europe. And stories of the mother killing her child as an act of revenge against her husband or lover in tragedies, like in Greek tragedies and legends and lore. And though the story of La Llorona could have gotten some bits and pieces from those who settled in the parts of the world centuries ago, there is also some evidence that shows she was talked about before Europeans, particularly the Spanish, arrived in Central and South America. Some aspects of La Llorona have been compared to some of the Aztec lore.
Oh, okay.
And it's like some of the goddesses that served as deities for motherhood and children. As reported in the Florentine Codex, which is an ancient thing written by like a friar, like a Spanish friar, long ago. Those ruling the Aztec Empire were said to have received signs or omens from the gods that turmoil was coming for the Aztec Empire, long before the Spanish conquest and the fall of the empire really occurred. One of them, including one goddess that was heard roaming the streets crying out, "My children, woe is me that I must soon leave you," or even, "Oh, my children, we are about to go forever. Where am I to take you?"
Oh.
So they took that as like something bad's going down with the Aztec Empire here.
Well, yes.
And it did.
Yeah.
There are links to Doña Marina or La Malinche, I think is how you say it. Sorry.
Sure.
To La Llorona as well. And for those that don't know, said person was a Native American woman or really a slave given to Hernan Cortez when he arrived in the Americas.
My God.
Yeah, and it's really sad. And she was chosen by Cortez to be his consort and birthed his first son. So she was the like mother of the first like Spanish native mixed person.
Sad.
On the continent. She was an interpreter, advisor, and intermediary to Cortez and the Spanish with the natives, and is known in many places now as a person who contributed to the conquest and the downfall of the Aztecs in the 1500s. So she's kind of seen as a traitor of sorts. Mm-hmm. But there are links to her story and the story of La Llorona as well.
Very interesting that it goes back this far.
To before the establishment of the Americas as we know it.
Yeah. Wow.
I know, it's wild.
Wow. I didn't know it went back this far. I really thought we were just going to be like, here's a couple sightings, from the 1990s and beyond.
Nope.
I'm very...
1500s before.
I'm very, intrigued.
I'm very believing this.
Yeah, that too.
So the last really half of the story, because I found so many stories, I couldn't really narrow it down.
I'm excited.
I wanted to share a variety of these stories told of encounters with La Llorona.
All right, I'm locked in.
I'll start with one told by a paranormal investigator and researcher who believes that there is no malevolence included in the true encounters with the entity known as La Llorona. But, quote, rather only benevolence, warmth, compassion, and even protective nurturing characteristics.
Okay.
We'll start with the good and then go on to what we like to do.
Slowly get worse. I will slowly sink down further and further into this couch.
Until you are nothing. Okay, so this one happened in Mexico City. He said, over the course of a few weeks, an extended family of 9 began experiencing La Llorona at first with glimpses of her shadow, always around the toddler's bedroom, soon accompanied by the distant sound of weeping. A priest was brought in to bless the home, but that didn't stop the manifestations from getting more prevalent. When La Llorona began taking on a physical form as an apparition and moving chairs and doors, a small baby camera captured the child's blanket moving late one night as if being tucked in.
Ooh.
The events brought the parents to take their child to a doctor to ensure their child was fine, only to discover that the child was suffering from a medical condition that, if gone untreated, could have been fatal. The manifestation stopped once the child had been taken to the doctor.
Oh, that's comforting. I mean, scary, but comforting.
She was trying to kind of warn them,
help.
like, hey, something's wrong. You need to...
Oh, okay. I mean, I'll take that. That's fine. That's fine.
This, unfortunately, was the only good story that I heard of La Llorona.
Okay.
She's oftentimes more associated with fear. Like in this story from like the El Paso, New Mexico border. So this was actually a story that was told on the radio, on a radio station in that area in El Paso.
Oh.
It was told by this lady who, she was an operator for like the police department. She gets this call. He says, "Ma'am, I'm working at a location at 123 Los Treques. Seems to be already in New Mexico. There's a female, seems to be covered in blood, carrying a newborn, walking back and forth. She's also, ma'am, just for information, she's also wearing a long white dress." He got his backup. He was calling for backup, and he got his backup, and they chased her, calling out to her, like, ma'am, stop. What, are you okay? Until she turned a corner that led to a dead end. When the officers turned that corner, she was nowhere to be found. There were no footprints, no blood droplets, nothing indicating of their experience actually occurring. They looked on the other side because it was kind of like a fence.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. No footprints. Nothing.
And they both saw her. It always gets me when everybody sees it.
Not just them. He isn't the only one that spotted the lady before. There were talks of like many officers like, oh yeah, we've seen them before. Like we don't really call it in because we know know who it is.
It's like that the tree episode from the fairies, or not the tree episode, the fairies episode with the tree cutting guy.
Yeah,
and they were like, yeah, we see it all the time.
We just don't talk about it.
I need more stories like that. I want people with weird jobs where things happen all the time. I need you to tell me like, oh yeah, people would think this is weird, but this happens here all the time. So we just kind of like, we don't talk about it. Please
all right.
talk about it, please.
I'm gonna
tell me.
Maybe that can be an episode coming up.
Because
I'll scour the web.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see scary jobs. Ooh, imagine people that do like deep sea jobs where they're out in the water. Okay. Yes. I've gotten
I've seen videos of people like there are mermaids or sirens out here and you can hear like singing and stuff.
Are we going to do an episode on mermaids?
I'm down.
I want to. I think I want to.
Let's add to the list.
Because I do like mermaids. We don't already have it on the list?
I don't think so, no.
Anyway, I'm down to talk about that. But just like, what do they see out there? Because I know they see some stuff. So let's put mermaids and then like people that work jobs where like there's like trade
strange
secrets of like, oh yeah, we all see this woman in a bloody dress, but we don't talk about it.
Okay, I'll look it up. I don't know how I'm gonna search that.
I don't know.
If you have any weird on-the-job encounters, let us know. Send them to our email.
Yes, specific ones to you, but not just like, oh, I saw this, but like,
everyone
this is in our
it.
trade.
Yeah.
We all know this, so we just don't even talk about it. That specifically.
Okay, moving on. Here's another story that is a sighting of La Llorona in Mexico. So, starts. My story of La Llorona takes place in Mexico. When I was 8 years old, when my grandma told me to go to the store to buy soda, this was during the evening as we were getting ready to eat supper. My brother and I left for the store, and along the way, we heard wailing, but we didn't pay much attention to it. However, as we continued on, we saw a young woman walking around us. Suddenly, my little brother started to cry, and the woman ran towards him, acting as if she was going to get him. When we saw that she was floating instead of walking, we began to run back to our house and told our grandmother and mom what had happened. We locked the door and started praying to God to help us and make La Llorona go away.
I just the running. Numb. Yes, yeah. It's always the running. If you don't ever see me in person, but if you ever see me in person and you just want me to fall over in fear like a possum, just start running for no reason. Because
don't do that.
Please don't. But also, don't see me in person.
Don't see us in person. I didn't want to be seen.
No, I don't want to be perceived. This is enough. As soon as you said that, my whole body was like,
I could see it in my peripheral.
I froze. I got a shock through my body. My toes are like tingling right now. Because like I was just envisioning the story like, yeah, okay, cool, soda. And then
creepy floating woman. Yes, crying.
Not even the floating, just the speed.
the speed at which she came at them.
Yes.
I feel that. No, I agree. Because I picture the swift. I don't know. Yeah.
My chest feels heavy.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble too. And I've noticed a lot of these happen to children.
Yes,
so.
I was about to say very young.
Mm-hmm.
It's never like the teenagers.
Well, sometimes it is, but mostly it's not. When I was about 8 years old, I had just started becoming interested in all things paranormal. Same. It was about that same time too. I was researching La Llorona when I suddenly heard a noise, so I decided to check it out. Then I heard it again. It sounded like it was coming from the bathroom, so I walked in and stopped at the sink. Then suddenly, my head was pushed into the sink, and the water started to run. The sink finally filled all the way, and I was trying to breathe. Then I couldn't breathe anymore at all. I thought I was going to die of lack of oxygen, so I screamed and my mom came in. She pulled my head out after a struggle and hugged me tightly. She knew I wouldn't drown myself, so she started thinking. Then she froze and her face turned white. She screamed and almost fainted. I asked her what was wrong, and she said with a stutter, La Llorona.
Oh my God. That is just straight out of a scary movie. I'm so
yeah, I hate that.
And the fact that it
I already
didn't
have issues with bathroom mirrors.
Me too. As soon as you said it, I was like, please, no, please. Because immediately I'm going to go in the bathroom and wash my face. Like, why do you have to do this? But the fact that it didn't immediately break, like when her mom walked in, like she had to struggle to get her.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
She wasn't scared of the mom or anything.
I hate that.
Me too.
Also, I need to say this before I forget. You can cut this if you want, but like, it's so crazy that like the more episodes we talk about, because like at the very beginning of the pod, I was like, I haven't had very many run-ins with the paranormal, but then it feels like every story we have, I'm like, actually this one time, and now I'm starting to think, what's going on? Like, it's kind of freaking me out. But anyway,
I know. When I think, I don't like to think about it too deeply, because then I'm like, we're always surrounded.
Stop.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, moving on. When I was 12 years old in 1991, my parents separated and my mother moved me and my brother to Monterrey, Mexico. In the winter, all three of us would sleep in the same room because there was no central heating, only electric heaters. There were 2 beds for my mother and brother. I slept on the floor in a sleeping bag next to my mother's bed. One night, around 2:30 in the morning, I woke up because I had been dreaming about my great-grandma. She kept calling my name, 3 times to be exact. Just a few minutes later, I heard the scariest screams coming from down the street. It was horrible. The cries continued each time, coming closer and closer. I was so horrified that I could not even wake my mother, who was lying beside me. I was so scared, I didn't even blink. It was the most evil cry I have ever heard. Finally, it passed my house and slowly faded away. The next day, I told my mother, I didn't believe in stuff like this, especially not La Llorona. After that night, I do.
Oh my God.
100%.
This is random. I mean, it's to the story, but I always envision things when you're talking. Have you seen that picture of, I don't know what it is, but it's like a picture of like a street. It's like dark at night and there's a lady standing on top of like a roof of someone's house, just like standing there menacingly.
No.
I'll look it up. That's
like the La Pisadera that we talked about.
That's what I'm envisioning with this right now. I don't know why. Oh, I'm scared. I'm really scared.
Don't show me that picture.
No.
My mom lived in the same house in Santa Fe, New Mexico for almost 50 years. When she was about 12 or so, she and her cousin were sitting in her bedroom, which was later to be mine. At one point, they heard a noise outside the window, and when they looked, a woman was standing there dressed in all white and crying. My mom and her cousin were obviously a little freaked out, and they ran out of the room to tell her mom. Her parents went outside to investigate but found no footprints in the freshly fallen snow. They came back inside and told her what they'd found, or rather, what they didn't find. That scared my mom even more. She was afraid to return to her room. When I was about 11, I was sitting in my bedroom, the same house, the same room, by myself at night in the middle of winter, and it had been snowing. I heard a noise outside my window. I'm afraid of the dark, so I didn't check to see what it was. I just left the room and did something else for a while. When I told my mom about it, she told me this story. She said it was La Llorona outside the window on both of those nights.
Oh my gosh. For it to come back like generationally.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Always looking through the window.
Hate that.
I was about 10 years old when I was playing hide and seek with some friends and my little sister. I thought it was a good idea to hide in the woods by the river. It wasn't quite dark yet, so I was able to make my way with ease near the river. I stayed in the woods and took cover behind a tamarindo tree. As I was taking cover, I started to hear what sounded like a woman crying. I looked toward the river and saw her there. She had her back to me, concealing her face with her long, dark, wet hair. But I could see that she was using the river to wash what looked like child's clothing. Although I could not see her face, I could hear her calling my name, and I slowly approached her without fully understanding why I was doing so. Closer and closer I got, the sound of her weeping growing louder. Then, for some reason, I can't explain it, I snapped out of it and realized, to some extent, what was happening. I remember being told to never turn my back to her or she will be able to take my soul when least expected. And the only way to escape from her is to walk backwards away from her. And so I did. I walked and I walked, then I blacked out. The only thing I can remember after that was being home with no recollection of how I got there.
That was chilling.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That would be my
To my
exact
core.
reaction.
It's just to back away.
Oh, well, no, I would run. I would never. Well, no.
Turn your back to her?
I would freeze. I would freeze. That is exact.
Just be stuck there for all of eternity.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to come drag me out of there because I am a possum to my core.
I don't even want to think about what would happen if I happened upon that.
Yeah, I don't want to put myself in that situation. I take it back. That will never happen to me, and I will not put myself in the situation because I'm already afraid of the water, so it is okay.
Well, just never happen upon her, thank the Lord. This one happened to an adult. It was during the summer when my family decided that we should all take a trip to Mexico to visit family. I was about to join the Marine Corps, so my mother wanted me to go see my family just in case something bad were to happen. At the time, I was with my pregnant girlfriend, who would later become my wife and then ex-wife. Her being Caucasian with blonde hair and hazel eyes made everyone around my grandma's house curious, and a lot of our extended family came to see the beautiful American girl. After greeting everyone, we all started to talk about what had been going on since we left. One of my aunts, who knew I was into the paranormal, brought up the subject of La Llorona, aka the wailing woman. My mom quickly told my aunt to shut up, since she knew that it would get me both interested and scared regarding it. But I was able to push my aunt to keep on going. I mean, I was going to be a Marine after all, and I couldn't let a silly myth scare me. She proceeded to tell us about how whenever she would sleep over at my grandma's house, at which we were currently at, if she stayed up late enough, she would be able to hear her wails, the wails of La Llorona. My mom rolled her eyes and jokingly pushed my aunt. The subject died from there, since one of the aunts started to talk about her son and whatnot. Seeing how serious everyone had gotten for a brief moment, my girlfriend nudged me and asked me what we were talking about. I told her the myth of the wailing woman and about how she drowned her children in a river and was destined to walk along all the rivers of Mexico looking for her dead children. She, of course, laughed, not really buying any of the paranormal stories. That night, my parents decided that my girlfriend and I should stay at our old house where I had grown up, since we were both adults and needed our own space. The house was currently being worked on, so the bedroom had no doors or working lights. The only doors the house had were the ones that led into the outside. Inside, we had to use a candle and a flashlight for light source. I remember we even used a bed sheet as a temporary door to give our room a little bit more privacy, even though we were the only two in the house.
No, but yeah, that's valid. That's scary.
It's creepy. I don't want open into the darkness of...
I don't like not having the option to close the door. It just feels spooky.
As the night went on, my girlfriend and I stayed up talking, and eventually we both fell asleep. I don't know at what time exactly, but something woke me up. I didn't have a cell phone, and my watch at the time was really cheap, so I wasn't able to tell the time. Looking down, I realized that my girlfriend had stolen the covers, so I slowly tried to steal some back. As I was debating on closing the window that was located right above our heads, I heard a long wail. It was a long, distorted wail. I could hear the old raspiness in her voice as if she'd been yelling for such a long time that her throat was getting ready to give out. But what confused me was that her wail sounded as if it was being played through an old gramophone. I don't know if it was the scratchiness of her voice or what exactly, but it sounded like an old creepy record playing over and over. She was wailing her trademark, "Oh, my children." That wail was what made her infamous, not just in the paranormal community, but with most people living in the rural parts of Mexico. My girlfriend started to stir and woke up. I was both excited and scared at the same time. A cold chill traveling down my spine just reinforced my fear. The wails grew louder and louder, making it seem as if she was slowly heading towards us. My girlfriend asked me, with a half smile, "What is that?" Thinking I had asked my aunts to scare us. I just motioned for her to be quiet and listen. Hearing my tone of voice, she knew that something was wrong. Another loud wail passed by, echoing inside the house. My girlfriend started shaking, terrified of what could be outside her home. I had my left arm under her head, and I could feel tears running down her face to my arm. Each time the wail came, she would shake a little, and at the same time, I would hold her close. The wails eventually came to a peak, where it sounded as if she was right outside our window. Doing the only brave thing I knew, I pulled the covers over us and tried to remain as still as we could. The wails eventually faded out, and just as we thought that she had gone, we heard two wild dogs viciously fighting and slamming against our outside door. This all happened around 2008, and still today, whenever I pick up my daughter, I would ask my ex about what happened in Mexico.
He did exactly what I would do, and exactly what I think anybody in that situation should do. The covers will
protect you.
Yes. Yes. That's because I was thinking as you were saying that, I was like, oh, just cover your head and close your eyes and it'll all go away. And they did. And
it did.
Yep.
Still.
I hate that.
I don't know
Grown
if
people
ever go back.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, grown people hearing it too. Like I said, a lot of this is children. Like these are 2 grown-ups.
Oh, God.
My mom was 10 years old and lived next to a small ditch next to a highway. She stayed at her friend's house, which was a little closer to the ditch. The day went normal, riding bikes, playing, typical girl stuff. Then night came, and they knew it was time to get home once the streetlights came on. They were sitting in the friend's bedroom, radio on, listening to music and playing a card game. It was already dark, and the music from the radio filled the room. Now, my mom's friend lived with her mom and grandma. Both spoke fluent Spanish. My mom understood it, but could not speak it. My mom developed this overwhelming sense of anxiety and terror suddenly. Then it started crying. The girls both heard it, but brushed it off as a cat or a drunken neighbor or something. Soon the crying began to become louder and more obnoxious, like it wanted to be heard. The girls paused what they were doing, staring at the window. Once they looked that way, the crying became ear-splitting. So loud it resonated over the stereo. Both girls had hands over their ears, fearful of what was happening. The grandma burst into the room, holy water in hand and a rosary in the other. She was screaming over the crying, praying in Spanish. My mom says that when she did this, the radio started to static and the lights began to flicker, both the crying and the praying booming extremely loud until it went quiet. It all stopped. The grandma said a prayer over my mom and her granddaughter and made them go back into the living room, instructing them not to return to that room for the night and not to look out the window. My mom returned home in the morning, not speaking of what had happened. Even when she tells the story now, an overwhelming sense of fear takes over and she gets goosebumps.
Give it up for grandma. My God. That's...
Yeah, I hate that.
It.
I hate the thought of just having an innocent little sleepover and like it goes over the static when you're praying over it.
All the sounds, I get like very overwhelmed when it gets really loud or like there's too much going on.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine being terrified and then having all of that noise on top of that. That would send me into shock. I'd have to be institutionalized. I couldn't handle that.
It would be pretty terrible. I'm getting more and more scared as the night goes on.
I know.
My dad would tell me his experience with La Llorona when he was younger. He lived miles away from school, and he had to walk or ride his bike to get there, and he would pass a huge river every day. He told me how he met his first wife when he was a teenager, and she lived near the school, so he had to go by the river to go get her. He stayed out pretty late since they went on a date, and he met her parents, and he stayed for dinner. When he was riding his bike back, he said it started to rain really hard, making it hard for him to get home since it was dark, and his only source of light he had was the moonlight shining through some of the clouds. He stopped near the river to go under a big tree to get out of the rain when he heard noises of a woman crying. He saw a lady crying by the river. He said he instantly got chills and goosebumps, but thought it was from the rain. He said at first he didn't think it was her. He couldn't really see her face or anything since he was so far away, so all he could see was a silhouette of a woman. He decided to ask if she was okay, so he started yelling at her, asking if everything was all right, and she stopped crying and got quiet. All you could hear was the rain hitting the ground, and he said he was going to check on her until he heard her blood-curdling scream. He knew he messed up and got on his bike and pedaled as fast as he could get home. He got home, went to his grandma's room, and asked her to start praying and told her what happened. They stayed up all night praying until the next day.
Oh my God.
That's what I...
Me too. That... When people acknowledge the thing, it always freaks me out so bad because, like, did it just not see him? And then he called its attention and now it's like, that scares me.
I don't know what I would do if I saw a lady crying by the river in the rain and the only way I had home was a bike.
I would just ignore it. If I was alone and really, what could I do for you? How could I help? Probably couldn't, as long as I didn't see like an immediate threat or danger or anything like that. I'll call 911 for you. But
you didn't have a cell phone.
Yes, but like I'm not gonna be, hey, how are you? Can I help? No, because what am I gonna do for you?
Not in the darkness. I don't know.
No, even in the daylight. Me personally, maybe if he's like a dude and like, I don't know, maybe he can do things. There's nothing I can do personally. So I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
Unless it is and this is such a conflicting thing and it's so evil that people use children in like schemes nowadays.
We don't even have to talk about it, yeah.
But like, unless it's a child, I'm not not stopping. I'll call 911. I'll yell out the window, cops are on the way. Like, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do, and I'm afraid of real people and spirits. So
let's say this world's too scary, and there's too much you can get that can get you, like on this side and on the other. So
yep. So I'm just going to continue to mind my business, help where I can, and let the police handle the rest as best as they can.
Well, I'm gonna leave you with a song that kind of sums it up.
No thanks, but okay, proceed.
It's a Spanish song, so this is translated into English, but don't go down to the river, child, don't go there alone, for the sobbing woman, wet and wild, might claim you for her own. She weeps when the sun is murky red, she wails when the moon is old, she cries for her babies, still and dead, who drown in the water cold. She seeks her children day and night, wandering, lost and cold. She weeps and moans in dark and light, a tortured, restless soul. Don't go down to the river, child, don't go there alone, for the sobbing woman, wet and wild, might claim you for her own.
My hand is shaking. I was staring at my microphone the whole time because I was like, that freaked me out.
It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
This might be, I say this like almost every time, it might be one of the scariest, but this one is. I have known about La Llorona for a while, and I don't like it.
I feel like growing up, like I always knew about it. I never knew the full story though. I just knew it was like
a spooky thing,
and that it scared kids or she took kids or whatever.
Yeah,
but
same.
yeah, I'm scared. I feel like we've done like a lot of fun episodes lately, but like now we're getting back into like
you told
horror.
Me. Yes, okay.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
wanted to do a little like break, and Natalie's like, you know what? I haven't been scared in a while. Let's do scary. I'm bringing you scary.
I'm scared. And I'm scared. And like the way you tell stories, like I feel like you really paint the picture. At least for me, I don't know. I'm in it. I'm deep in it.
I try
painting the picture the whole time. When you're talking, I'm like staring at the corner over here because I'm just like, I'm putting all the dots together. And yeah, this is I feel pretty sick.
I hope you're all scared too, because this is what we'll leave you today. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate you taking the time. Don't forget to rate and review if you're on podcast. Do all the things, like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Let us know what you think of La Llorona. If you have a different version of the story, we'd love to hear it.
Or if you've had a run-in.
Ooh, yeah. Let us know if you have had any encounters with La Llorona or any other spirit, really.
Yeah.
You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel, or you can email us at ghosteaspod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at ghosteaspod. Keep up with us over there. See what we've got going on. Not a whole lot, but sometimes sometimes it's fun. But yeah, we're so excited to be going on this adventure with you guys, and we will see you next Monday. Goodbye.